Right, hello, lads and lasses, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to be looking at Ange's transfer policy because in the last few days, I think it's been really shown in full effect in regards to the Liel Abada situation. But to really have a look at his policy, we have to go on a deep dive way back in time, enter a time machine, and head all the way back to the summer of 21. And as we all know, that transfer window was more about filling up the squad than it was rather being a bit particular in who to sign. We brought in 12 players into the club, and in no particular order. They were Kyogo, Jota, Starfelt, CCV, Scales, Urigide, Shaw, McCarthy, Abada, Giacomakis, and Juranovic. We also let go of a lot of players who had no intention of staying at Celtic and Ange didn't see in his plans. Odds on Edouard, Olivia Incham, Chris Ayer, Ryan Christie, Lee Griffiths, Marian Shved. You know, the list goes on in regards to those players. A lot of players also went out on loan. But while it was commonly viewed that this transfer window, Ange didn't really care about who came in, and he got lucky with his transfers. That is a report I saw go around a lot at the time. Oh, how wrong that was. This is where we saw the earliest evidence of Ange's no-love policy. This is where quite a few names were rumoured to join Celtic, had been in contact with Ange, with the club, but didn't end up signing. We had Yan Couto, the right-back from Man City. We had Thomas Henry, the French striker. Aurelio Buta, the Portuguese right-back. There was about 3 more right-backs as well there. There was a centre-back too. I can't remember them all off by heart, but you get the picture. Ange knew from the beginning if they weren't sold on the idea of joining Celtic at the very beginning, then he wasn't going to take the time to convince them because they weren't right for Celtic. Now, you look at every single player who was signed for Celtic, every single one under Ange, pretty much when in an interview. Now, I don't know if this is spectacular media PR training, but they've all said something along the lines of, as soon as I heard Celtic were interested, I told my agent to make it happen. Aaron Moy has said it, Kyogo has said it, Sedak Sabanovic has said it, Alistair Johnston has said it, Rio Hatate has said it. You get the picture. Players who want to play here and are good enough to play here, well, it's simple. They play here. Then there is the other side of the spectrum, selling players. As mentioned previously, Ange flushed out the whole squad in his first transfer window. Following that, we really didn't sell anyone significant for the rest of that season as we were still in a rebuild. Then, even in the summer transfer window of 2022, yet again, hardly got rid of anyone. Rumours ran wild, but it was all speculation and nothing concrete in place. We made multiple transfers, including the permanent signings of Daizen Maeda, CCV and Jota. But then, in the most recent transfer window, we knew the future of Celtic, a future of multiple Celtic players was done and dusted. Josip Juranovic first up. It was all but confirmed when we signed Canadian diamond in the rough, Alistair Johnston, and while we were all convinced it was Juranovic who wanted to believe, later reports, specifically from Juranovic, kind of made us a bit uneasy on that, as he said he had no intention of leaving Celtic, but was rather pushed out the door. Regardless, he went for £10 million. That is a £7.5 million profit in the process. Georgios Giacomakis too. He wanted out due to the limited minutes he was getting behind Kyogo. In turn, he was sold to Atlanta United. In the MLS, he left for about £4 million, and that's around a small £1.5 million profit. Replaced and fully funding the signing of his replacement, from South Korea. 2 sort of different situations. Now, Juranovic, it seems like it was more of a business deal. Celtic knew his market value was peaking, especially after his World Cup performances. So doing what all great businesses do, they cashed in, they maximized their profit, and now can and have been using that money to further reinvest into this squad. As for Giacomakis, he wanted out. So Ange said, see you later. Simple as that. And there's not really much else to it. That's why we didn't get much of a profit there. And now we get to Liel Abada, a rising star in the footballing world without a doubt. And he is valued at £6 million right now, according to Transfermarkt. And that's roughly £6.5 million profit if we can get him for what should be a £10 million transfer fee. Because you've got to factor in the transfer fee, you've got to factor in rising star tax. And that's pretty much to it. But hopefully, if there are add-ons, we can get that deal up to £15 million. Now, that's a big ask and a big if, but I'm thinking £10 million is the rough idea where Celtic will be looking for a deal. But why, you ask? Well, why do we have to sell Liel Abada? He's perfect off the bench. He is an impact player. Him and Sead Haksabanovic are great off the bench. Well, as we're all aware, he has rejected 2 contract extensions from Celtic in the last 2 months. Now, this is where we see Ange's policy in full effect. That's a sign that Liel Abada does not see his long-term future at Celtic. And he isn't in the long-term plan. So if he isn't in the long-term plans, why would we keep him at Celtic? So what do? You do what all great businesses do. You move him on. And that is what is being reported in the media right now. Celtic will look to offload him in the summer transfer window. And this is why Celtic's transfer policy is foolproof. And this is a system that has only been used since Ange has joined the club. It is Ange's transfer system. You bring in who the manager wants, only if you want to come to Celtic. You sell who isn't seen as a long-term player or has no interest at staying at Celtic. You do not convince them. You do not take any extra time or effort to try and sell Celtic to a player. A player should be sold on Celtic from the very minute, because if it takes convincing, well, they're not gonna put their heart out to Celtic, are they now? And that's how you run a football club, like a business. And well, how do you know if it's working? By the simple metric of success, trophies. What has Ange accomplished in his 2 years at Celtic so far? Not even 2 years. 1 year and 8 months, I think it is now. Well, we have 2 League Cup trophies and we have a league title, 3 trophies out of a possible 4 domestic trophies so far. Not to mention another league title that is inbound and a Scottish Cup which could potentially accompany it. But how does Ange get this to work? Because obviously we know different managers have different tactics. Some managers love being right in there and involved in the squad, getting to know the players personally, but Ange is the complete opposite, as we know. He keeps the squad happy by, ironically, being less involved in the squad. He doesn't develop friendships, he doesn't develop favourites, except for the case of Kyogo, who I suspect could be anyone's friend and anyone's favourite just because he is that likeable of a bloke. So he doesn't develop those friendships, and in that, he doesn't have to make the tough decisions. Well, no, he does. He makes the decisions, but they're not tough decisions for him because he doesn't have any of those personal ties with the players, and he isn't impacted by the personal factors. I'll reiterate it. Ange's transfer policy is foolproof. It is no nonsense and is highly effective. We've seen that in every single transfer window. Not even to mention, bringing in players and having to offload them early because there's just no place for them. As in the case of Moritz Jens, he was a fan favourite, but Ange had to let him go because with the signing of Yuki Kobayashi, there was no need for Moritz Jens in the squad. He was only there to cover the brief time that Carl Starfelt was injured, and when Starfelt got back to full health, it was see you later Jens. Even though we all loved Mercedes Jens, we thought he was a cracking player. Some even went as far as saying he was better than Starfelt, which he did seem for a period of time. His loan deal was cut short and now he's over at Schalke, where he is making the best of his time there. And that's what good players do. But enough about Jens, back to Ange. He makes those tough decisions. And you know what? For him, I'm sure they're not tough decisions because he doesn't have that personal affiliation with the players that I'm sure some of the other assistant managers do, or we as fans see the players. So that's why, that's Ange's transfer policy. And you know what? It works. And it's modern football we're talking about here. Modern football is a business. And the only way to be successful is to have a successful business. In turn, Ange is running a successful business here at Celtic. It's a successful policy. It's a successful plan. The amount of times I've said successful in this video is a joke. Probably in the double digits now. Doesn't seem like much, but for one video in 9-10 minutes, that is pretty impressive. Anyways, I think as long as we keep Ange, this transfer policy is going to stay in full effect, and it's going to keep reaping the results, and we're going to keep winning trophies. We're going to keep seeing success. Now, God forbid Ange ever leaves. The club cannot afford to change the transfer policy. We need to take away, because Ange is a genius. We know that. That's a matter of fact. He is a genius. So if we're going to take anything away from Ange's time at Celtic, whenever he chooses to leave, if he ever chooses to leave, it should be that his way of viewing transfers and ways of dealing with the club are astronomically better than they ever have been. So much better than when it was with Neil Lennon. But regardless, we need to keep this policy going for as long as we can, because it is effective and it works. And that is all from me. So if you guys did enjoy the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave in the comments below your thoughts on the matter. Go follow the Instagram, and until next time, hail, hail.